Hi, I'm Jim Drain, and I'm 76 years old. I was born in Butte, Montana, and raised there, and graduated from Butte High School, and went to the Army for 6 months. At that time, there was the Reserve Forces Act of 1956 that allowed you to go to the Army for 6 months and complete your 8-year obligation through reserves. At any rate, when I came back in December, I went off to college at Montana State College in Bozeman, Montana. And within the first week of being there, I met my future wife, Jane Snip. Jane and I were married between our sophomore and junior years, and Matt, our oldest, was born between our junior and senior years. So it was a very difficult education, because I was working my way through college at a retail lumber yard and putting in many hours at that, plus taking enough credits to get finished with the university in 4 years. Turned out I kept having terrible nightmares about the fact that I had one extra credit to graduate, and I had this nightmare that it was one too few and that I would have to stay in college. Well, at any rate, I had worked our way through college with Monarch Lumber Company, and they had little lumber yards all over the state. So they offered me a job to run a lumber yard in Wolf Point, Montana, which is about 50 miles from Canada and 50 miles from North Dakota. And the common thing there was about a 30-mile-an-hour wind, and the temperature varied from 111 to 38 below zero.
What did you get your degree in?
I got my degree in accounting and engineering. So we were there for 2 years, and happy to get back to the western part of Montana, which is the beautiful part. Montana is split in half, mountains on the west side and prairie on the east side. And Wolf Point was 187 miles from the first pine tree, so we were really out of our league, but we loved the people there, and it was a magnificent couple of years, at which we lived through a 7-year drought, the last 2 years of that 7-year drought, and it was incredible to see how wonderful the people stood up to all of that. At any rate, we moved back to Bozeman, and I took over the lumber yard that I had left 2 years earlier. I came back as the manager, and of a much bigger yard. I had 17 people working for me, and we had a ready-mix plant and a big lumber yard. And so I then met a fellow, John Duncan, who was a electrical engineer and doing studies at Montana State University. By that time it had changed from a college to a university, and we liked each other very much, and we started a company called Summit Engineering, and we developed controls to automate machinery. And about that time, I was looking through a trade magazine, and there was a fellow in Santa Barbara who manufactured machines to drill holes in printed circuit boards. And in the ad, it said that it was a template drill, but it could have automation added to it. So I called Ed Vernon and told him of our device, and he said, well, if that works as well as you say, bring it down, we'll hook it up, and we'll go to a trade show down in Anaheim. So I did. I left Bozeman at 25 below zero and flew a circuitous route, and finally ended up at 70 degrees in the middle of the night, and he had gotten me a room at the Santa Barbara Inn, and the next morning I woke up and walked out on the deck and looked at the beautiful Pacific Ocean. And why I didn't call Jane and say, sell everything, we're moving to Santa Barbara right at that time, I have no idea, but we didn't. There's no place like home. So we did. We had a successful trade show and went on to be very close friends, and we're close friends to this day. At any rate, I sold the company in Montana, and we were tired of the ice and snow.
Oh, not the lumber yard, but
no, the Summit Engineering. And we were quite successful there. We developed a controller we called the Bandit, and it was used to automate 3-axis milling machines. And we went from sales of $1 million a year to $1 million a month in 18 months. It was horrendously difficult time trying to grow that fast. At any rate, in 1979, we decided that we'd had enough of the ice and snow, and friends of ours and Jane's parents had moved to the Phoenix area, so we moved there and bought a house that had 8 grapefruit trees on it and a big swimming pool. And it took me 2 or 3 years to understand that I was there with a job. I'd look out on that swimming pool and think I was on vacation all the time. At any rate, we started another little company to automate various types of machines, lasers, electron beam welders, machine tools, and so on. And I had just sold that company when I got a call from Ed Vernon saying that he needed someone to help him. So we moved to Carpinteria, and his company was called Development Associates Controls. Later, the name became DAC International, but I came there and in '91, and Ed retired then in '94, and I became the president of the company. And when I'm
what did DAC International do, or DAC?
Okay, DAC International still does, makes the machines that are used to make contact and intraocular lenses. Magnificent machines that are, of course, computer controlled to sub-micron levels, nanometer sort of levels of precision and accuracy and smoothness of the surface. It's so in that job, I traveled all over the world because we manufactured these machines here in Carpinteria, developed them, manufactured them, serviced them, did everything, and shipped them from here. And though that caused me to have to travel around the world talking to customers, because selling a $300,000 piece of equipment, people are having to put a lot of faith in the company that they'll be around to service them over the years. You really become a partner with those kinds of often small companies, but we sold to the large companies, Bosch and Lohm and so on as well. At any rate, within the first week that I was at DAC, Jane was still in Arizona in our lovely home there, and I was telling this technician of my wife Jane's type 1 diabetes, and he said, "Oh my gosh, my wife Wendy is the nutritionist for the Sansum Diabetic Research Institute, and you must get to know Dr. Lois Jovanovic." Well, it took Wendy a while to convince Lois that she should meet Jane, but the takeaway from that was that Lois said to Jane on their first meeting, "We've just completed a big study on type 1 diabetes, and we have determined that if you will take 5 check your blood 5 times a day, morning, noon, night, bedtime, and 3 a.m., and take an appropriate amount of insulin, then your body will react so much better. So I've said that Jane lived 21 years longer than she would have had we not moved here. So wherever I was traveling around the world,
Adjust the camera a little bit.
okay, wherever I was around the world, at 3 a.m. local time, I called Jane.
You must miss Jane. Huh? It's nice to see a little emotion. What an example of people that love each other. But so
we were together.
Have they found
want to take
Almost, yeah, take a break.
so okay, we're back recording.
Okay. So one thing that I missed in this thing, being so intent upon giving Jane's story, is that we, while we were in Wolf Point, we had our second son, Tim, and we moved back to Bozeman, and Jane said, "I'm pregnant." I said, "You're what?" And so Elizabeth was born a month post-mature, 10 pounds, 4.5 ounces. Poor little Jane went through hell getting that baby born, but what a wonderful, wonderful addition to our family. 2 boys and a girl. And it was a wonderful life in Montana. We skied in the winter, of course. We had our skiing friends, and in the summer we played tennis, camped, fished, hunted. So we had a very full life, and I built a home evenings and weekends, and it took me 18 months to build that house, and we lived at 1317 South Black in Bozeman until '79, when we decided it was time to go south and get out of the ice and snow. So back to Jane and our God-given direction to come here to Carpinteria. What a magnificent thing that has been. Jane and I were both kind of in trouble health-wise, and we invited our son Matt to live with us, and he and I have started a general contracting company, and Matt does all the work and quoting and talking to the customers, and I pay the bills and do a little bit of the marketing stuff, and we're blessed to be here in this beautiful city of Carpinteria during its now 50th anniversary. Hard to believe, but we're going to be able to celebrate that terrific time together. So,
horrible thing was like at one point.
Thank you very much, Larry. This has been a lot of fun.
A few questions. One is, for people going into business, what did you learn about how to be a successful businessman?
Well, some of the things I think that were a mystery to us was that we formed a corporation. We didn't know what to do with the stock or any of that. So the first thing that you have to do to start a business is sit down and write a business plan. And that can be multiple pages with projections of income, sales, expenses, how long will it take you to become profitable. All of that is critically important to starting a business that will amount to anything.
Any other business advice?
Well, just be prepared to work 24/7 on the project. There's gosh, yes, long hours, and And if you're in the engineering world, that's the one I can speak to. I've never started a retail store or anything like that, but I have started. No, I've always been involved in high-tech equipment, and so if you surround yourself with engineers, if you're the business type, then you have to do all of the work to get the funding needed in order to make your business successful. And again, back to that business plan. Learn how to write an effective business plan, and in doing that, you'll recognize your shortcomings. And of course, always surround yourself with people that are a lot smarter than you. You have certain talents, and what you have to recognize is that the real smart guys are often very difficult to work with. I remember the cartoon of a shepherd with a stick and a bunch of men and women around him, and the caption was, "Managing software engineers is like herding cats." Oh, I guess the cartoon was the shepherd and a whole bunch of cats. That's what it was. And so, but it's certainly true. There's nothing that can't be done with software, but on the other hand, you got to do it. And so finding those kinds of people, because everything now is based on software, and there's such marvelous developments in technology. Graphene, I think of, which is this one atom thickness of graphite that is purported to be 10 times stronger than steel and a better conductor of electricity than copper by 100 times, and flexible and lightweight. And we can see things coming in the years and decades to come, where we'll have a cell phone that you can roll up and stick in your pocket like a pencil, and then unfold it and use it as a telephone or an iPad and so on. And so we're just beginning in this wonderful world of high tech, and I'm so pleased to have been able to follow along with it. I started using a personal computer in 1981, and along came the iPhone, and I've had the latest iPhone ever since, and they're just magnificent devices that just end up running your life. On my iPhone, I have everything that I need. I read books, I watch movies, I communicate, I send emails, I text, all of those things that makes our life so much better.
Tell me, what lessons have you learned in life just about being happy and how to get on with people and so forth?
Well, that's a good question, Larry. I've always been a glass half full. And I think you have to have a certain amount of optimism during the very difficult times that you will face as an entrepreneur. You can't let it get you down. Of course, it will try to get you down, but you can't let that happen. You know, you have to be the cheerleader if you're going to make a success. Particularly when the electrical engineer, the mechanical engineer, the software engineers are all saying, yeah, we can do this, you know, we'll get this done. But trying to figure out what this is that you want to invent is a difficult road to hoe. And you have to count on your marketing savvy and the input from your technical staff as to what is the best thing to go after. But there's plenty to do.
You have to expect that things will go wrong. And
absolutely, yeah. It's the old thing, cheer up, things could be worse. So I cheered up, and sure enough, things got worse, I guess, at times. But persistence is the key. If you know, of course, if you quit, and that's the end of it. But if you are persistent and you stick with your guns, you'll be successful.
Okay, well, thanks so much, Jim. I appreciate your advice.
You bet, yeah.